folks are still trickling on. The nature of this will be that there'll be things that'll be repetitive. So if you don't get it, just like in school, if you don't get it the first time, we offer multiple opportunities for you to get the information. So let me again just start by welcoming you this evening to our town hall meeting. We're delighted to have you here. I'm joined on the panel tonight by our wonderful leadership team here at Cedarbrook. Ms. Adisa Cohen-Johnson is with us. Mr. Byron Ryan is with us. And because of the nature and purpose of this conversation, our school nurse, Stephanie Arani, is here with us as well. So they've been encouraged to jump in at any point during the conversation as well. So I want to share with you that it's been a very exciting day here at Cedarbrook. January 11th was a big day for us. We welcome back some of our teachers who started teaching today and organizing themselves to go live tomorrow. So we're having a staggered start of our faculty. It was great to not be alone in this building today. This afternoon, we welcome back our 12 student athletes who are participating on our girls basketball team. And I was able to go back to the gym and watch them develop their skills, to watch the awe on the faces of our 7th graders who walked into the gym for the first time and experienced the warmth and hospitality that Cedarbrook is known for in its welcome to our students, to our student athletes, to our parents, and to the wider community, and know that we extend that welcome to you tonight. So the nature and purpose of our time together tonight is really to share with you the plan that has been developed and refined and revised and redeveloped and re-refined and talked about for months to begin to move towards our reopening for hybrid instruction on February 1st. I know that this is a plan that is a fluid document. It is a work in progress. I know you'll have many questions. And so I really view this plan as a conversation starter, that it is grounded in our conversation tonight, and that it will be better because of the questions that you ask. So with that in mind, I also want you to be mindful of the fact that we're coming back to a different landscape than we left in March. So our reopening plan will address some of the differences that you will see and that your students will notice who are coming back in February for the hybrid model. So let me minimize that and start our presentation. So our goals for the evening, I just sort of outlined them for us, are really to share the important components of the Cedarbrook reopening plan that are really relevant for our families and our students. We want to continue to build the excitement, both that the Cedarbrook staff and teachers have for our student return, and that I know that students are feeling as they prepare to return on February 1st, even with the noticeable differences that we'll share tonight. So while we're building anxiety, we're also aware that, while we're building excitement, there's also some anxiety. That's a Freudian slip. There's also some anxiety that continues to float around our community about our February 1st return. And I want to help to lower that, to move it off of boil down to simmer. Part of it is we just have to walk into this unknown together, and we'll figure it out. I do want to allow space tonight for questions to be asked, questions to be posed. We will try to answer some of them tonight. My hunch is that this will be an opportunity with your questions to draw my leadership team back together and really flesh through and think through those questions and provide, begin to compile an FAQ, a frequently asked question document that we can share with you. So our process for the evening is that I'll share this PowerPoint presentation, and I can already hear you starting to get out your cell phones and take screenshots and the click, 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 click. Relax, take the information in, process it. This event or this town hall is being recorded. The slide deck that I have prepared for you can be shared. So if you feel like, Jim, slow down, you're blowing through these important topics and I need more information, know that you can always come back to the slide deck. As we go through, if you have questions, we're going to ask that you use, I learned something new a few minutes ago, not the chat feature, but the Q&A feature. And you can post your questions in there. Ms. Cohen-Johnson, Mr. Ryan, oh, and I forgot to mention Ms. Wisman. How would we get along without the principal secretary? They'll be monitoring the Q&A and help us organize them into broad themes so that we can begin to address them in a meaningful way. At the completion of the slide deck, we're going to take a short pause, 10 minutes or so, so that I can have a chance to review the questions as well. I've sort of minimized my screen so that I won't be distracted by your questions during this conversation time. And then any unanswered questions or questions that we feel need a fuller and more thoughtful response will, as I said, become part of our FAQ document that we'll put together and definitely share with you. So how did we get here? Let's back up in time to March 9th, which seems like years ago. March 9th, as you know, we received word late afternoon that we would be closing schools for 4 days to clean, do a deep cleaning of our buildings. We had word that there was some virus out there that was coming our way. I remember being at Wyncote Elementary at the time and thinking and saying to the elementary students there's a little bug out there. We're just going to clean the building and we'll see you Monday. Well, I didn't realize that Monday was going to be Monday, February 1st, 2021. But that Monday is on the horizon. Over the summer, the central administration team led by Dr. Marseille and Dr. Smith organized some reopening committees so that we could have some very intentional conversation about how we could best plan for reopening, not knowing when that reopening date would be. In November, our board of school directors, a great group of community members, volunteers who give time, blood, sweat, and tears to the issues facing our school district, voted that we would return on a staggered approach with our faculty beginning January 11th, which we're doing, and a target date of February 1 for student return. With that, we needed to know who is coming back to the building. So on December 2nd, an instructional model registration communication was sent to all families from the district, and you were given an opportunity to select would your student, which option was best for you and your family, either a hybrid model or a or your child will continue to remain with virtual instruction. On late December, we received that data at the building level and began to disaggregate it and look at teams and who's coming back when. And we communicated to all our families on December 23rd about the instructional model that your child has opted for. If you were unable or chose not to complete the survey, your child was placed into the virtual model. Again, today, as I've mentioned, has been a big day here at Cedarbrook. Teachers returned, some students returned, sports returned, and now the highlight of the day, our town hall meeting. And of course, all this energy, all this momentum is building towards our February 1 anticipated date for student return. Of course, being part of the Cheltenham School District, all of our decisions we try very hard to make most of our decisions based on data. So I want to share with you some different ways of interpreting the data. So Cedarbrook Middle School has a total of 732 students. Based on the survey data that we received back, 393 of our families will opted to remain with virtual instruction, and 339 of our students' families opted for hybrid instruction. And that really does, our numbers are in alignment pretty close to district-wide. And then I broke it down by grades. You can see that our seventh graders, we have 374 seventh graders. Our hybrid is slightly by 2 higher than those families that have chosen to remain virtual. And our 8th grade is the opposite. So we have 207 families or students who will be remaining virtual and 151 who will be coming in for in-person instruction. Just to look, we know as teachers, we know as educators, we know ourselves as lifelong learners that it's good to see information in a variety of ways. Here's a pie chart that shows you the whole school breakout with our number of being 732. 53% roughly will be remaining virtual, and roughly 47% will be coming in for hybrid. Again, another visual representation broken out by grade and by 8th grade. You can see the discrepancy there, or the real difference there is pretty marked. So what does all that data mean? How has that data shaped our thinking and shaped our model of instruction for hybrid? So based on the number of students who will be returning, we are able to accommodate our students in a 4-day in-person instructional model, which means if you're coming in for hybrid, your student will come Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And all students will have a rich combination of synchronous and asynchronous instruction. So students who are at home will be able to access the lesson just as students in school will. There will be time where students go off and do independent practice in a synchronous fashion. The teacher will be available as well for support as well as enrichment. Wednesday will continue to remain an asynchronous day of learning. Students will need to continue to register their attendance through their grade level Google Classroom form. I'm sure by now you're tired of having a robocall from me on Wednesday mornings, reminding your students to do that, but that is an important process that will continue. The buildings will be cleaned thoroughly and deeply on Wednesday while there are no teachers in the building. And it's also a day that we will continue to use for teacher office hours, for our teachers to provide additional support, remediation opportunities, one-on-one meetings with students, as well as offer enrichment and extension activities. Based on the numbers of students who are coming back, we were able to make sure that 90% of our returning students will remain with their regular schedule with the same teachers that they've had all year. In some instances, we have had to make some tweaks to student schedules in order to ensure the safety of our students and our teachers, as well as based on the size of our classrooms. If your student, if a schedule change was made for your student, you are contacted by a phone call and a follow-up email on December 23rd between 10 and 12. Those calls were made. So that's sort of the history and the data that has shaped how we've gotten to this point. It's grounded in data. but overall it's grounded in safety. And that for me is the big lens through which this plan has been crafted to ensure that we're honoring the tenants' best practices as the CDC have put out, the tenants and best practices of the Pennsylvania Department of Health, Montgomery County Board of Health, as well as the very comprehensive document that the district has provided for us in our health and safety plan, which is available to you online. So let's get down a little bit more now into this sort of granular level of what do arrival and dismissal look like? What does our scheduling look like? What do the cleaning practices look like? I'm not sure if I said this, what does the day look like for our scholars? And what are the health and safety protocols that we are putting into place? So students will be arriving to school in a variety of ways: school bus, parent drop-off, and walkers. Walkers, of course, it's going to be the smallest segment of our pie, and we're noticing a tick up in parents that will be dropping students off as well. So student safety, as I've said many times, and you'll hear it many more times tonight, is our number one priority. So I want you to be patient as we roll this plan out. We know that it looks great on paper, and we know that sometimes tweaks need to be made once it's really enfleshed and lived out in a concrete way. If you are dropping your student off, bringing your student to Cedarbrook, students may not be dropped off before 8 o'clock because we simply don't have the adequate coverage to ensure that they are kept safe. Of course, there are our front doors at Cedarbrook, where all of our 7th graders will access the building through the front doors. And I know that there is some anxiety with our 7th graders coming in who have never been in the building. We are keenly aware of that, and I'll address that as we go through the program. But all of our 7th graders, whether they're bus riders, parent drop-off, or walkers, will come into the building through the front door. Our bus riders will come up on the bus into the front loop in front of the school. Will exit the bus in a systematic way, ensuring at all times that their masks are on and that they are maintaining appropriate social distance. And they will come in through the front door. Our 8th graders, particularly on teams 8B and 8C, will enter through one of the side doors marked A2. And we'll have plenty of signage and adults here to guide folks through. The buses will then pull off and head on to their next route. Parents will not be allowed to drop off their students in that traffic circle. However, you will come down, you will access the building off Longfellow Avenue. And as you approach the building, you see the 2 lanes there on the left. One is the right-hand turn lane, which takes you up into our traffic loop where our buses will be. And one is, you see the straight arrow on the pavement, which will take you to the stop sign. And just a friendly reminder that buses are bigger than us, and please give buses the right of way as they're exiting the traffic circle. You will continue after you stop through that stop sign into the into the drop-off area. Students will leave their cars. And there's a sidewalk right there, and it's hard to visualize, but I've tried to capture it as best I could. This door marked A1 is the double door you see in the picture on the right. Our 8th grade students on teams 8, B, and C will enter the building through that door. Our 7th graders will continue up that flight of steps and turn left at the top and come in through the main doors. as well as our students who are on Team 8A. They will access the building through the front door as well. So once we get everybody in the building, we need to get everybody out of the building at the end of the day. We will have a staggered dismissal time beginning at 2:10. Again, for those of you that had any experience with me at Wyncote, I was the one in the parking lot directing traffic at the end of the afternoon. Again, pack your patience. It's going to be a no passing zone. We need to ensure everybody's safety. Remember that the buses are bigger than you and have the right of way. And even for pickup, you will not be given access to the traffic circle in front of the building. Our van services will be there, and our buses will line up for dismissal in the back of the building. And I really want to give a big shout out to Mr. Ryan, who has helped me visualize the logistics of this. So he's been very instrumental in that. Once we get our students here, what is our schedule going to look like? So there have been some significant considerations that we have been thinking about, and I want to just share them with you. Our first bell will be at 8:10, and our dismissal will be at 2:10. And this is for students who are coming in person for hybrid instruction, as well as for students who are remaining fully virtual. That is a change for our virtual learners who are used to sort of logging on at 9:20 for their first class. So we're going to have to change some routines and get students up a little bit earlier and ready to log on to first period at 8:10. All of our students will have a 30-minute lunch period. Office hours will be, our teachers will be available from 2:15 to 3:15 for office hours, particularly for our students who are remaining on the fully virtual instructional model. That's a great time for students to connect with their teachers. Our periods are moving from a 60-minute period to a 75-minute period for instruction, which is a 15-minute increase. And because of the traffic patterns that we're establishing in the hallway, we've also increased our transition time from 3 minutes to 6 minutes, which will help us stagger dismissals from classrooms so that we don't have all the students pouring into the hall at the same time, in order to ensure both safety and CDC compliance and compliance with our health and safety plan around appropriate social distancing. That 6-minute transition time also applies to our students at home who will be remaining virtual. It will give them a chance to get off the screen for a few minutes and take a stretch break before transitioning to their next class. I do want to say, in the interest of full disclosure, we did look initially at going back to a full schedule, an 8-period day. After careful consideration and a lot of conversation, we decided that we would go with try as closely as we can to maintain the current schedule that students are on, with the 4 periods a day. In large part, it was also a safety consideration because this reduces the number of transitions that students will have throughout the day. Now here I know is where the clicking of screens starts. So what are the schedules going to look like? This is the schedule for Team 7A and 7B. We will continue to operate on an A-B day for our encore classes, which means that Monday and Tuesday will be A days, Thursday and Friday will be B days. I know it's taken me a while to get to completely understand A and B days, but I think we've got it now. Our core classes will meet, the same schedule will be Monday and Thursday, and periods 5 to 8, and our win period will be on Tuesdays and Fridays. You see there the 30-minute lunch period is built in. So that's a difference from our current schedule where we have a common lunch from 11:30 to 12. Our teams, our PBL teams, 7C and 8A, this is what their schedule will look like. They have the second lunch beginning at 12:18 to 12:48. And then the transition time is there, and then their last period, their fourth period will start at 12, or yeah. Fourth period and wins will start at 12:54. The biggest difference you'll see with our lunches here is going to be with teams 8B and 8C. So in order to accommodate the cafeteria schedule and the gracious folks who prepare lunch for us and serve lunch for us, our 8B and 8C folks are going to have their last period is called a split period. So they will start instruction in their fifth period class at 12:18 and go to 1 o'clock. At 1, they will, if their student is on 8B or 8C, they will transition down to the cafeteria until, for their 30-minute lunch. And then they will go back to their fifth period class or their win period class, depending on the day, and finish out the day in that room. So that will, we're going to work with our students so that they understand exactly where they need to be and when they need to be there and where they need to return to. Again, I will, this slide deck will be available to you. So if you didn't capture the periods, it's okay. It's okay. So welcome to Cedarbrook. When you come into our office, if you come into the office, you'll notice some differences here. Our amazing district facilities folks have put up a significant sneeze guard or barrier. When you come in, there's hand sanitizer available, there are masks available. I want to be clear with you, though, that we are limiting access to the building. All of our meetings will remain virtual. So if you need to have a parent-teacher conference, or it's time for your students' annual review of their IEP or their GIEP or their 504 accommodations, the case managers will be in touch with you, and we will remain virtual for those meetings. Again, to limit the exposure, to limit the number of folks who are coming into the building. Our classrooms look different. Here's a sample. Here's a picture of what a classroom looks like. Student occupancy depends on the size of the classroom. So there's not one size fits all, which would have been great from a planning perspective. But student desks have been placed 6 feet apart from each other, and in keeping with the Cheltenham health and safety plan, all desks and students will be facing in the same direction. All safely socially distanced. Numbers have also been, we've also planned for students who have either a one-on-one or additional support adults who might be in the room. So all these numbers have been factored into determining how many students and adults we can fit safely into into the learning environment, into the classroom, while maintaining the necessary guidelines that have been put forth for us. Our science labs are slightly larger, but again, you can see desks are appropriately spaced. There will continue to be limited opportunities for labs at this point due to our social distancing protocol and due to the idea that students will not be sharing materials. I don't know if you can see it clearly on that desk there, but every teacher, every room has a bottle of CDC approved disinfectant as well as hand sanitizer. So teachers will also be provided with sneeze guards around their desks by February 1. Our art room, of course, looks different. We've had to space the tables out with one student. Our art room, is on the left, with one student at the table facing the same direction, and same with STEM. So you can see in STEM, this particular classroom, we've had to add 2 more desks to accommodate the number of students on that particular teacher's roster, the maximum number that will be safe to be in that room. What does the cafeteria look like? Very different, very different. As I said earlier, our students will have a 30-minute lunch. Based on the numbers we received, again, it all comes back to the data. Based on the numbers that we received from the December survey, we are able to accommodate 72 students in the dining commons. Overflow rooms will be provided, where students who are packing their lunches, who are bringing their lunches from home, will be able to have their lunch in the auditorium. Again, we'll be able to maintain social distancing there. We just simply aren't able to accommodate 2 teams in our cafeteria and maintain the social distancing. As I said earlier, our 8B and 8C teams will have that split period lunch. Here are a couple other shots of the cafeteria, the dining commons, as we call it here at Cedarbrook. Just on the edge of that picture on the right, you can see some desks lined up in a row there. We were able to add some more desks to bring us up to 72 in that. Students, again, will come through a serving line in a very systematic way, maintaining social distancing, appropriate distancing. They will get a grab and go meal. At this time, there is no plan to have a variety of options available to our students. They'll grab a bag, they'll go to the first available seat. We will fill the cafeteria from the windows to the back, and we'll dismiss from the back to the front, again, to prevent in order to maintain the appropriate social distancing. So this to me is one of the biggest changes that our students will encounter when they come into the building. Seeing the long tables removed from the cafeteria and replaced with these student desks. These desks will be clean. There's I believe a 20 or 21 minute period between each of our lunch periods, and the desks will be cleaned between lunch periods. In the bathrooms, again, we've worked very hard to ensure that we're maintaining health and safety as our #1 priority. In the bathrooms, we have put down reminders for our students that they are to do the best they can to maintain this appropriate social distancing of 6 feet. Our hand dryers have been turned off, and we have installed, as you can see in the picture on the right, paper towel dispensers and added some additional trash receptacles in the bathrooms. And in large part, that's to ensure that we're not spreading particles through the air with the hand dryers. Some specific reopening information that relates directly to Cedarbrook Middle School. Our teachers will maintain attendance records and have been directed to create seating charts for each of their periods for our in-person students for purposes of contact tracing in the event that that is needed. For technology, it is essential that students bring their district-issued Chromebook every day for in-person instruction. We know that there are some issues with our Chromebooks. They're not holding their charges all day. Students should plan to bring their adapters as well, and we will do as much as we can to ensure that they remain charged throughout the day. So take note that our standing homework assignment beginning February 1 is to make sure that your student fully charges their Chromebook every night. And while our Cedarbrook teachers are extremely proficient in the use of technology in the classroom, they are not tech experts. So if your child runs into or encounters a tech issue, we will troubleshoot it here, and if need be, we will refer it to our amazing staff at the central office and building level who do the tech repairs. Lockers, after exploring the pros and cons of using lockers, our administrative team here at Cedarbrook has decided that students will not be using lockers during this period of hybrid instruction. In large measure, it will help us reduce the potential for gathering in small groups around your locker. I know in my high school and middle school, that was a popular activity. I'll meet you at the locker. Let's talk between classes. We don't have that luxury right now because of the necessity of keeping the social distance. Our students will not be using gym lockers. They will not change clothes for health and PE classes. So on the days that your students are scheduled for health and PE, and they're coming to Cedarbrook for in-person instruction, they need to come ready to go with appropriate footwear, especially for use in the gym. Again, to mitigate one of the factors of shared resources, our water fountains have been shut off in the building. And so we are strongly encouraging you to send your student with a bottle of water. We will have some filling stations should they need to replenish their water bottle during the day. And also during lunch, they'll have an opportunity to have a beverage as well. I was going to say something else about lockers, but that has gone out of my head now. Oh, no, it hasn't. So with lockers, additionally, our hallways we're able to maintain 6 feet on both sides to ensure two-way traffic, particularly on our second floor. But if we were to use lockers, that would reduce our ability to have two-way traffic in the hallways upstairs. So that was another factor that we used to determine that our use of lockers would be suspended during this period. Students are welcome to bring everything in the school bag. Because of the distance, social distancing in our classrooms and the way that the desks are spaced, keeping your backpack next to your desk, your coat on the back of the chair is not a safety issue at this point. So we will again continue to build routines and expectations with our students who are returning for how to be accountable for their materials and their belongings. Now we're really getting into the nitty gritty, some more nitty gritty of our health and safety protocols. It is essential that all students wear a mask per the directive of the governor, and any student who forgets his or her mask will be provided one. We will talk about the appropriate ways and we will model the appropriate ways to wear masks, making sure it covers our nose as well. Any student who is not wearing a mask properly or who refuses to wear a mask will not be allowed to participate in in-person learning. We will, after a period of transition and instruction on our expectations, if the student is not living up and able to honor those expectations, you will be notified and the student will need to come to be picked up. This is really, from a health and safety standpoint, one of the non-negotiables in returning to in-person hybrid instruction. And we appreciate your support and your understanding that it really is for the health and safety of the entire community that we're wearing, that we are wearing masks. Masks can be removed when students are in the cafeteria or in the auditorium eating, when they are appropriately distanced. Masks can be removed during designated mask breaks in the classroom. For many, this will be an adjustment for our students to have to wear a mask all day, every day. These mask breaks can take place in a classroom at the direction of the teacher. Students will be able to remove their masks for a maximum of 10 minutes. Students will not be able to walk around that classroom during the mask break. They will remain in their seats, again, facing in the same direction. Mask breaks, again, will be determined by the school. We do understand that there are certain situations in which students, because of an identified medical condition, are simply not able to wear a mask. If that is the case for your student, we will need documentation from their healthcare provider, and we will need to identify with you and with the healthcare provider what an alternative face covering would be, and within the parameters that it has to cover the nose and mouth, extend below the chin into the ears, and a face shield might be one of those options. A mask, again, is a non-negotiable, even on the bus and anytime at school. Again, another exception is that if our students are outdoors, and there's that magic number again, there's an appropriate distance from one person to another of 6 feet, and they won't be in contact with the other person for more than 15 minutes. Masks will be required in the gym. And I just want to give a shout out to any of our families who are listening who had a daughter participate in the basketball practice today. Every time I went back there, all of our student athletes did have their masks on during practice, except for water breaks. And water breaks, they were appropriately spaced in the gym. So I was very, very proud of their actions and their leadership around around the mask requirement. Another concern that our leadership team, both at the central office and at the building level, have been very cognizant of is the level of cleaning and attention to detail that we need to have in order, again, to ensure the health and safety of folks coming into our building. Cedarbrook is in great shape. We will continue to clean the building throughout the day. Our custodians will be using a disinfectant. Will disinfect the high content areas such as our stairwells, uh, um, high touch areas such as a handrail, tables. Our hallway restrooms will be sanitized. The trash will be removed at midday, which is the height of our lunchtime. So we'll pay particular attention to that. Teaching staff, as you noted as I noted to you in one of the slides earlier, will have disinfectant materials in their classroom that are EPA and CDC approved. And then in the evening, our custodial team, big job ahead for them, will disinfect the building by spraying and wiping surfaces, again with a hospital grade disinfectant. And then on Wednesday, as I've alluded to earlier or mentioned earlier in the presentation, Wednesday, because it is an asynchronous day of learning, will be a day in which our custodial staff does a deep cleaning of our building. When we look at and think about what happens if my student gets sick during the day, or if a student gets sick or my child gets sick, I want you to know that the district, both at the central level, the district level, and the building level, we are very, very committed. As you see, this is the common motif throughout this presentation. We are very, very, very committed to creating a safe and healthy environment for all of our students, our staff, our faculty, and families during this global pandemic. And unfortunately, during these variants that we're seeing pop up. Cedarbrook and all of our district buildings has a full-time nurse assigned to the building. On the right there, you see the picture of Stop the Spread of Germs. We have signage produced by our communications office at the district. We have signage throughout the building as friendly reminders to students of tips that we need to ensure that we're doing individually and as a collective to reduce the spread of respiratory diseases, flu, and COVID-19. So students will see these signs posted throughout the building. They'll see the round stickers on the floor as well. Thank you for maintaining social distancing, constant reminders. And there on the right, you see that we have also been able to place strategically throughout the building hand sanitizer stations so kids can come by and sanitize their hands throughout the day. Trash receptacles, that picture doesn't exactly capture it, but we have more trash receptacles in the hall. And we have signage on the floor, which will help us navigate the building patterns and the traffic patterns in the hallway. I have to tell you, it's having been in the building since July 13th, mostly by myself. I've sort of walked wherever I wanted to throughout the building. Today I was with Dr. Marseille, paid our building a visit. We're always glad to have him in the building. And I noticed at one point during our walk, we were going up the down staircase and down the up staircase and the wrong way in the hall. And so all of us, our teaching staff, our paraprofessional staff, our administrative staff, we all need practice to familiarize ourselves with the routines and the new patterns in the building, which is one of the reasons that our wonderful teaching staff is returning to the building on a staggered start. Not only to sort of test out the technology and get themselves comfortable teaching back in the building, but also when they leave their classroom to familiarize themselves with how do I get and how do I help my students get from point A to point B in the building. So it is a, for those of us who spend a lot of time in the building, it is a work in progress, and we're all learning at the same time. There are times, however, that it just simply isn't safe for your student to be at school. A lot of this is common sense, but I want to remind you of it. If your student has a fever greater than 100.4 degrees, if your student is experiencing chills, cough, shortness of breath, a new loss of taste or smell, nausea, vomiting, or diarrhea in the past 24 hours. Those are definites. Keep them home. Excuse me. That wasn't a keep them home cough. That was just a tickle in my throat. And then if your child is exhibiting 2 or more of the symptoms of sore throat, unusual muscle ache or fatigue, and headache, please keep them home. I can't emphasize to you strongly enough the importance of keeping your child home. We know sickness and illness happens. We get that. And if you're in doubt or have any question, let's err on the side of caution as a Wildcat community. Are there additional reasons you need to keep your student at home? Yes. If your child has been in close contact, and close contact, what do we mean by that? Less than 6 feet. They haven't been able to maintain that appropriate social distance for 15 minutes or more with anyone who has been diagnosed with COVID-19. If you or your family, if your student has traveled to any other state for longer than 24 hours or has traveled out of the country, or if you're awaiting a COVID-19 test result. If your child gets sick during the day, the classroom teacher will call down to our nurse or to the main office, where we'll do a quick screen of the symptoms that the student is exhibiting, because that will help us determine if the child needs to go into a more restricted environment, an isolation room, or they can be seen in the general health suite here on the first floor. If your child is deemed by our health professionals in the building to have any contagious symptoms, including symptoms of flu, which go back to the previous slide and those descriptors of fever, chills, et cetera, you will be contacted for immediate pickup. We are fortunate that our isolation room does have an outdoor automatic egress, so the student does not need to come back through the building if they are contagious, and we will help you identify exactly where that is if you need to pick your student up. But we do need you to come and be able to pick your child up as soon as possible. If, heaven forbid, the symptoms are critical that we call 911, if that's warranted, we will do that, and we will notify the receiving hospital that the student is presenting with COVID symptoms.
Jim, could I just jump in with one quick?
Stephanie, our nurse, go ahead.
If you'll be covering this later, but this is a good time. I know that there have been news shares and other emails that have gone out that have requested your families to update your contact information. And if you haven't done that already, please, please do that, because if we do have to call you, it would be great to have your contact information as well as 2 agents you've identified as emergency contact, so that if in the event that you're not, as the parent or guardian, able to pick up your child, you'll have someone who will be able to do that, just for everyone's safety.
Excellent reminder. Thank you for that, Steph. That's great. I also want to highlight that we are rolling out a process to do a daily screening on everybody that's accessing our building. With Qualtrics, every student must complete the screening every day before they arrive at school. So if your student is riding a bus, I would strongly encourage you to have your student fill this form to complete this screening tool before they get on the bus. And once your screening tool is complete, we've had some test runs at the district level. There's a turnaround time of about a minute where you will get immediate feedback on whether your student is safe to enter the building or not. If your student has not completed the form before they get off the bus or before they come into the building, we do have the ability, and we will be using lots of our personnel to review the app to see which students are able to come in, have completed the form, and have not. If they have not completed the form, we're simply going to ask them to go into the auditorium and complete the form there and wait for clearance. Again, this is being rolled out even as we speak at the administrative level. I think my colleagues who work over on Ashbourne Road are trying it out this week. We'll be rolling it out to our teachers, and you will be getting more information both from Mr. Kaufman's office, our communications officer, as well as our Dr. Horsey's office, our Director of Student Services. So with that, you know me well enough by now, having not met a lot of you in person, but you've read a lot of my writings at this point, to know that I think thank you are 2 of the most underused words in the English language. But I would be very remiss if I didn't thank everybody at the district level, both on the operations side of schooling as well as the educational side. This plan is the result of a huge, huge team effort. And all those people, Dr. Marseille, Dr. Smith, Dr. Horsey, Dr. Gallagher, Dr. Sandberg, Ms. Collins, Mr. Kaufman, our business office, Ms. Michaels, our HR director, Ms. Tolbert Jackson. A huge shout out to our facilities director, Mr. Teasdale, Mr. Barone in IT, Mr. Custer, who is busy planning bus routes and helping us with transportation, and of course, Ms. Cahill, who will help ensure that your students have a grab and go lunch. I couldn't have done this without their support, and I just need them to know publicly how grateful I am, as well as my amazing colleagues at the building level, Ms. Cohen-Johnson and Mr. Ryan, who have reviewed this plan, who have given feedback, who have laughed with me, who have seen me frustrated. They've seen the whole range of emotions. One big happy family, this administrative team. To Suzanne Wisman, the principal secretary here at Cedarbrook, who, if being a principal secretary doesn't qualify her to be a professional juggler, I don't know what does. And of course, to our school nurse, Stephanie, who's on the call with us tonight, who met with me day 1 or 2 in my tenure here as your interim principal, to make sure I was beginning to think about isolation rooms and quarantine and all those things. Of course, I do want to thank any and all of our Cedarbrook teachers who are on this call tonight. They have reviewed this plan. We went over it in great detail last Wednesday at a faculty meeting. They've offered their suggestions. They've demonstrated such tremendous professionalism. And as one of our teachers said to me, they've been able to sort of reinvent themselves on a dime. And their flexibility is evident every day in every classroom. Of course, we know that every parent and guardian who is on this call tonight and not on this call tonight, your input is essential into how we move forward. And of course, we do this work, and you all know me well enough that I always get choked up at this. We do this work because of the students that you send us. That's the only reason we do this. And so I want to thank every single 732, back to the data it goes, back to the data, all 732 Wildcats who are on this team. Whether you are choosing to remain virtual or you're coming hybrid, we can't wait to see you in whatever venue it is. So thank you a million times over. Thank you for bearing with us as we seek to get this model launched and off the ground. What's coming up next? A lot of you, many of you have asked about, particularly for our 7th graders who are experiencing some nervousness about coming back to the building. I get it. There's that wonderful book called First Day Jitters that is often read at the elementary level. I've had first day jitters since July 13th, anticipating this return. So I get that kids are nervous about coming back to a very different setting. We will be producing some welcome back videos that we will be releasing to you through email communication that will highlight for our students what they will experience when they come back. The traffic patterns, what will the hallways look like? What will the what will the hallways look like? What will the cafeteria look like? Tell your friends, come one, come all. We're going to have another town hall meeting Tuesday, January 26th at 6:30. Again, access through cheltenham.org Zoom. Because that will be roughly a week away from our anticipated reopening date. Perhaps we'll have some more information. We'll be able to take our questions that we received tonight, mold them and shape them, incorporate them into the plan. But through it all, I want you to know that your voice matters. Your voice is important in this plan. So if after tonight you realize, like I do many nights, about 2 or 3 in the morning, something pops in your mind, jot it down and send me an email. Send Miss Adicia Cohen-Johnson, send Mr. Ryan, because I'm always happy to share emails with them. Please feel free to email Miss Wisman and she'll forward it to me as well. But I want you to know that we're in this together. I'm here for you, and I know as a fact you are here for me. And I just feel so grateful for your support as we look at all these next steps and as we look forward to a February 1 anticipated return for our students. So that, believe it or not, back to the beginning, concludes my presentation. I'm going to stop the share here. I'm going to ask that we just take a few minutes, at this point maybe 5, because it's 20 of 8 already. Who knew? Time flies when you're having fun. We're going to just take a short break. I'm going to put myself on mute, which I know is music to your ears at this point. I'm going to take a quick look at some of these questions and answers that have come in, see if there are things that we can address quickly tonight. But I do want to acknowledge that your questions will be responded to. So give me 5 minutes to take a sip of water, and I'll be right back. So I'm just going to turn my camera off. Okay, friends, I'm back. Lucky you. Great, great, great questions. And again, these questions are going to form and shape our plan and make it even better and make it even stronger. Um, Thank you for your comments, for your positive feedback. I know some questions have been answered during the course of this by our Crackerjack administrative team. Um, a parent did ask for a picture of what the auditorium looks like. I can certainly get that done and included in an email. That's an easy one. There was a question about the ventilation system of our building. So as you know, Cedarbrook has the happy designation that we are the newest building in the district. Our filters, our airflow in the district are all CDC compliant. I have been in touch not only with Mr. Teasdale, who has assured me of that, but also with Jim Carlin, our building engineer, who knows this building like the back of his hand. Teachers will be able to open their window for additional ventilation in their classrooms. We do know that there are some interior classrooms in the building that do not have fresh air. However, they are part of the return flow and get fresh air at regular intervals through our ventilation system. There was a question about Cedarbrook teachers returning to the building. I am happy to report at this point that we are looking at being fully staffed in the building. Obviously, there are some cases where teachers aren't feeling well. Teachers take a sick day, what have you. But at this point, we're looking very good that we will have the staff on hand to be able to open. There's a question about, will teachers be vaccinated before before our return? It's funny you say that. I just got a text from one of our teachers as this meeting was happening that she just signed up, that they just signed up for their vaccination. So that's great. So we're moving in the right direction. Adults will be present in the hallways. Not all hallways will be one way because we are able to maintain the 6-foot distance between one side of the hall and the other. But we will have plenty of adults on hand to support the transitions. How will you be informed if there is a COVID positive test, or I'm sorry, a student who tests positive for COVID? Of course, I can't stress enough that we will maintain all laws around student confidentiality and HIPAA, right to HIPAA. We have a very detailed protocol in place. At the district level, the student will be screened by the nurse. If we get a positive result from a definitive test by their doctor, we will then allow the Montgomery County Office of Public Health to direct how we're moving forward. Through contact tracing, we will inform those as best we can who have had the potential of exposure to someone who has tested positive. Dr. Horsey's office is the office at the administration building. Our Office of Student Services who is leading the charge on this, along with Dr. Smith, Dr. Marseille, um, our school nursing coordinators at the district, and as well as our communications officer. So once heaven forbid that somebody does test positive, we will follow the protocols outlined in the district health and safety plan for letting families know, which you have access to on the district website. There was some question about, because we're not using lockers, how will students who have instruments store them? I don't have the answer to that, but I'm sure that Mr. Hoy, our orchestra teacher, does have the answer to that. And I will touch base with him, and I'm sure he will be in communication with our orchestra families. There's a question about band. Of course, band and chorus are problematic because of the risk of exposure by blowing into instruments, of releasing particles into the air, of singing. We are still working on figuring out what those programs look like. We will do our very best to use the tools that they're using now, some of the smart music apps that they're using to help our musicians continue to practice and continue to build their love for music and their capacity for proficiency in an instrument. So there are additional questions around what public health numbers were used, when will the school shut down in the event that we need to. Lots of these decisions are made based on numbers around link transmission, which, as I understand it, and Stephanie, please chime in if I'm not right here, link transmission is instances in the building where it's determined that COVID-19 has passed either from teacher to student or student to student contact. So we will look closely at those levels of transmission. Clearly, as I mentioned earlier, our board of school directors is looking at numbers as well and making decisions in our best interest, looking at the numbers. We're using the best available data we have, both from the county and the state. You know, there's a COVID-19 dashboard on the state website. I believe it is the Department of Health website that has the incidence rates and the positivity rates available for you if you'd like to have that much detail. I will defer decisions on whether a building remains open or closed to the folks that make those decisions, to our central administrative team, who, trust me, are working around the clock on these issues. There is one question here. I can't even read my own writing, but I will review that. A question has come up. If based on numbers or based on family comfort, based on the fact that things are going to look different in February than they did last February, if you choose to move your child back to, if you're currently signed up for virtual, but want to move back to, I'm sorry, if you're currently signed up for a hybrid, but want to move back to virtual, that move is very easy. Bringing a student into the hybrid environment is much more complicated because our numbers and our distancing and all our protocols are based on the numbers we have in December. We will look particularly for our students who have IEPs. We will look at that on a case-by-case basis to see if we're unable to meet the legal standard of a free, appropriate public education for them. If we need to bring them in, we will do that, as we have been doing for our special ed students since, I believe, I want to say early or mid-October. We brought our elementary students received some in-person instruction at Cheltenham Elementary, and our high school students and Cedarbrook students were here in the building. So we have tested some of these systems out already, and thanks to those students for being our guinea pigs in some level to see what was working and what wasn't. So yes, if you need to move your student for whatever reason, comfort, safety, whatever family decision goes into it, back to a virtual model, that's fine. But please let me be clear that we will not be moving them back to a hybrid model. It's not like all that changes on a dime. So thank you for understanding that. And thank you to all of our families who understand that that the survey was sent out, and that the response or lack of response indicates that your child will remain in a virtual setting. So instructional model. So I appreciate your understanding that as well. Again, there might be some extenuating circumstances that we will look at on a case-by-case basis, and in conversation with the Office of Education and the Office of Student Services to ensure, as I've said repeatedly, everything is done through the lens of student safety. So that's an hour and a half of a lot of information. I know that our Q&A session, our lingering questions and answers are going to be saved for me. And we will, my leadership team will meet and we'll begin to look at those again and flesh them out in some detail so that we can be more reflective of those questions and give you the answers that you all are looking for and are entitled to. So let me thank you so much for giving so much of your time and attention tonight. I know, again, there's a lot of information. I'll be in touch with the communications office to get a link posted or get this presentation posted as soon as possible so that you can have access to the information. I know that many of you will be sitting through more town hall meetings at our elementary buildings or at our high school or at Elkins Park. But know that all of my colleagues know that we're better together. And thank you for entrusting us, not only with the great responsibility and great task of providing a great education, a rigorous education, and opportunities for your student, but also entrusting us with their health and safety and their well-being. It's a responsibility all of us at Cedarbrook take, and all of us in Cheltenham School District take seriously. And we will continue to stay in touch with you. So please tonight, stay safe, wash your hands, wear your mask, stay 6 feet away from each other as best as you can, stay in your bubble, and we'll get through this together, I have no doubt, and know of my availability to you and know of my gratitude and how this really is a great honor to serve as your interim principal here at Cedarbrook. So have a great night, be well, stay safe, and stay in touch. And remember, be kind to one another, because at the end of the day, that's what gets us through. Take care. Have a good night.
Thank you, families. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Mr. Taylor.
You're more than welcome. Thank you.